All right, Shalom. This is the brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah. And a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the name of the one they ignorantly call God. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Bahashem is in the name. Rakah is spirit. Kodash is holy. Akyam is brothers. Akwath is sisters. Shalom means peace. And Yasher Allah is Israel in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew. All right, I want to go into a lesson based on this article. All right, and it says Putin declares American world order is ending. A truly multipolar world has begun. Now, before I begin reading this article, I want to grab Revelation chapter 11 and verse 14. And it reads, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. I also want to grab Proverbs 21 and 1 real quick. Bear with me. This is Proverbs 21 and 1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. See, what's happening on the earth right now, and the reason that this article and everything that's happening dealing with Russia and Ukraine is extremely important because it aligns with prophecy. We understand that the third world's woe is going to take place. For those who don't know, the third world woe mentioned, all right, the third woe mentioned in Revelation the 11th chapter is a third world war. All right, because when you read up in Revelation 11, all right, let me go to Revelation 11. It'll explain that two woes have passed. All right. This is Revelation. Slakia. Revelation 11 and 14. And again, it reads the second woe is past. All right. Now, second woe was going into what? The Second World War. Now, when you deal with what's happening on the world stage, when you deal with the politics of it, everything leads up to the prophecy of the Third World War. One of the major prophecies in the scriptures. All right. Among the major prophecies that we know concerning the end, all right, is also the mark of the beast, the MOTB, all right, which is the RFID charagma. All right. The same technology that's put into your debit card is eventually going to be mandated to be placed inside of people. That's a major prophecy of the end, the separation between the world that we live in now and the kingdom of heaven. In between that, these prophecies are the things that we have to understand how close we are to the end and the second return of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Now, when you look at what Putin is saying in this article, all right, for centuries now, America and the West, all right, which are the allies of America, there's been a world order that's been set up, and America has been number one. Now, make no mistake, whether it's Russia, France, Great Britain, Australia, all right, America, Canada, these are Edomites, all right? They may identify as Canadian, French, Russian, but they're all Edomites. The first two wars were really wars amongst Edomites, with other nations being allies, if you will, or accessories. The Third World War is going to take place in similar fashion. Right now, you have the two main contenders, which are Edomite countries, Edomite nations. All right, the Edomites that call themselves Russian and the Edomites that call themselves American. Now, for a long time, even now, all right, the American Edomite, if you will, has been on top. They have been able to dictate policy upon the planet Earth. They have been able to push forth their interests and agenda across the planet Earth with no contender. Now, this is important because when you look at this article, Putin declares American world order is ending. A truly multipolar war has begun because, again, now we're getting into a place where these other Edomite countries, mainly Russia, are beginning to desire a new world order. Think about that, all right? Because, again, these nations are all participating in war drills, all right, military drills. And when you deal with Russia, they've done many drills together with China. Because again, we're in a time where the Edomites in America have wanted to keep everything the same way. They want to just stay in the position of power. And now you have these other Edomite nations, i.e. Russia, saying, look, it's a new world order coming into place. All right, now let's read some of this article. And Salakia for the rant. All right, it says, Zinger key points. Russian President Vladimir Putin calls for an end to American world order. Putin suggests the end of the U.S. being a world power is ending. All right, so I'm just going to start at the top. All right, it says the war in Ukraine could mark the end of an international world order led by the United States, according to comments from Russian President Vladimir Putin. What happened, Putin told lawmakers in Russia in July that the dominance of the U.S. could be over soon, according to a report from Newsweek. And this is the writing on the wall. All right, this is why in Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, the Lord says, prepare. All right, basically telling Russia to prepare to be a guard unto the other nations, because now the other nations have options. Well, really, they only have one other option. Outside of America, Russia's becoming the best option for most of these other nations that are in between. All right, so real quick, this is Ezekiel 38:1. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. All right, now you have to remember, Russia and America after World War II were the top contenders for world dominance. America was able to take that at the end of the Cold War. And now what we're beginning to see through the spirit is a revival, if you will, of Russia being able to be in a position where they can actually contend for dominance. Together with their allies, when you deal with China, when you deal with Iran, these are allies that allow this coalition to be possible. Because China has the money, they have the economy, they have the productivity, while Russia has missile defense systems to deter the eagle, which is America. Now, continuing, it says Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So this article is extremely beautiful, because part of being a guard is being able to say what other nations are afraid to say. Because everybody sees what's happening. Everybody sees that America is beginning to lose that dominance and that power. All right. But all these other nations are scared to speak up because they have something to lose. Well, Russia has nothing to lose at this point. Between the sanctions, countries like Iran, they have really nothing to lose. Countries like North Korea. Now, when you deal with Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, that's dealing with Turkey, which are Edomites as well. All right, going back to the Ottoman Turks, the Turkish Empire. All of these nations are going to begin to side with Russia, because at this point, Russia's beginning to look like the better alternative. Think about that, because a lot of these nations are feeling the same way that Putin feels, but they don't have the ability to speak up like that. And that's the beginning of Russia becoming a guard unto these other nations. We also saw that play out in Syria. All right, when America wanted to invade Syria, Assad called upon Putin, and Putin was a guard unto him. These other nations are looking at these things and they're saying, look, this may be our opportunity to get from under the hammer of the whole earth. All right, this is Isaiah 14:9. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? So when Putin says, look, it looked like they going down, man. They dominance is over. It's coming to an end. That's basically these nations saying, look, you've become weak like us, meaning we have a fighting chance now. Now, Russia's able to speak up for other nations that don't have the type of military equipment and expertise to defend themselves. So in essence, Russia is being a guard even now by being able to say what every other country, all right, that's not an ally to America willingly wants to say. All right, now as we continue to read this, it says, they should have realized that they have already lost from the very beginning of our special military operation. All right, and that's what they call the invasion of Ukraine. They call it a special military operation. Putin said its beginning also means the beginning of a radical breakdown of the American world order. Why is he saying that? Because again, Ukraine's defense is solely dependent on America and the West. And Ukraine their military being defeated by Russia is a statement that's being made across the entire planet for all these other nations to see. See, most Americans, they look at the news and they look at the world from an American media perspective, which paints this picture that Putin is the bad guy and America's the good guy. Well, when you leave America, you find out that most of these countries look at America as the bad guy. So by default, that means what Putin is saying makes him appear to be the defense to many nations that can't defend themselves or speak up. This is why you're going to start to see more nations boldly support Russia. China has already done it. Iran has already done it. All right. Turkey at this point is still a NATO member. So they're still an ally to America. But we know, according to prophecy, eventually they will also turn. When you take all of the big words out in these politics and you just look at this from a judgment perspective and a prophetic perspective, you understand that the Lord raised up Esau, Edom in the West, in America, to stir up strife on the earth. And now you have these other Edomites that are in other lands, like the Russians, the Turks. All right. You have them starting to rise up and say, look, we want a better deal. We all Edomites, after all. We want a better deal. Why you get to have the top seat forever? And now you're starting to see a line being drawn in the sand. And a lot of these nations are starting to side with the other alternative, which is Russia. Now, when we continue, it says Putin's comments reference the involvement of the United States in providing support to Ukraine and also placing sanctions on Russia. This is the beginning of the transition from liberal, globalist, American egocentrism to a truly multipolar world. Now, when Putin says that, think about the other nations and how they're going to look at that. A multipolar world. When they're used to America dictating terms and they either have to deal with it or have America bring their CIA, all right, or their economic hitmen, all right, and destroy their country or destroy those leaders and replace them. That's the world order that we currently live in, that these other nations have to bend the knee to. Putin offers these guys an alternative. And that's why we understand the Third World War is going to play out in a major way, because now there's a push against the established power structure. And there's a push to change it. All right. Putin said the transition can no longer be stopped. And this is why in Isaiah the 14th chapter, they said, verse 10, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? All right, thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. All right, and that's what you're starting to see. Not only are you starting to see the decay within America, but you're starting to see the other nations on the outside licking their chops, saying this is our opportunity to replace this bully. Now, make no mistake, I started this off through the spirit by making sure that it's known that these are still Edomites. Russia, France, Britain, Australia, Turkey, these nations are still nations of Edomites. They just call themselves by these new terms, these new language, new speak. But make no mistake, these are all still Edomites. And the first two woes were a product of Edomite upon Edomite violence. And this third one is going to be more devastating. And it's ultimately going to end up with missiles being shot upon this place. And that's what's going to begin to, and then you're going to see Yahweh Shah come for those who can receive it. And all of these things are like the details that lead us down this path. All right, real quick. Joel 3:9, and it reads, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. And now the weak can say they're strong. Why? Because they've all banded together. And who's the guard unto them? Russia. So they may be weak alone, but now that they are able to come together, the BRICS nations, they're able to say within themselves, we're strong. And you see that through their actions. You can see that through Russia's ability to speak against America so boldly, all right, when you deal with Putin. These other nations are hearing this, all right, and they're looking at the options. They're weighing their options. Whereas 20, 30, 40 years ago, they didn't have options. The hammer of the earth controlled everything. The tip of the spear, if you will, of the Edomite rulership, the tip of the spear is these Americans. With the greatest military that ruled through violence, that coveted fields and took it by force. Now, these Russians are still Edomites, yet it's going to look to the other nations as a better alternative. All right. Continuing. Now, check this out. Continuing, it says the Russian president spoke out of hostile actions of Western countries like the United States. The so-called collective West, led by the United States, has been extremely aggressive toward Russia for decades. And I always say this through the spirit. When you go to Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. All right. And I'm going to just jump to the point. In verse 4, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army. Basically, the Lord has allowed Russia to be passive, if you will. You know, Putin on many occasions has stated that he disagrees with certain sanctions, certain policies that America has done. But now he's beginning to act more boldly. And that's the Lord saying, look, they've been poking at you for years. Now it's time for you to turn back into that spirit. And now the Lord has literally put Putin's back against the wall. So now he's forced to go back into that old Cold War Soviet spirit. All right. So when you see him say the so-called collective West, led by the United States, has been extremely aggressive toward Russia for decades, meaning they haven't forgotten about everything that's been done to them. Just like the Japanese haven't forgotten. All right. These other nations haven't forgotten what America's done to them. They just don't have power or options. Now the Lord is presenting an option to them. But long and behold, what we're going to find out is that it's all going to break out into war. All right. Because, again, America's not going to go down without a fight. All right. Now it says why it's important. Putin's comments blame the Western countries, including the United States, for starting the war with Ukraine. It was unleashed by this very collective West, organizing and then supporting an unconstitutional armed coup in Ukraine in 2014. All right. And then it says, and then encouraging and justifying genocide against people in Donbass, Putin said. The comments come as it was also reported by Putin that Russia could only be beginning its military efforts. It says the comments come as it was also reported by Putin that Russia could only be beginning its military efforts, meaning they have no intention to stop here. Think about that. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai, all of these things are playing out in real time, and no one outside of those who have the eyes off can see what's actually happening through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai. The Lord is raising up war within the earth. And it's a beautiful thing because these are the details that lead us into that. All right. Continuing, it says, everyone should know that by and large, we haven't started anything yet in earnest. Putin said Russia has not rejected peace talks, and the further the conflict in Ukraine goes, the harder it will be for countries to negotiate with Russia. So the Lord is turning them back into that Cold War spirit. And eventually they're going to get into that spirit where they don't want to negotiate. That's going to lead into the Third World War. And America is so used to getting her way all the time that she is going to go down fighting before she gives up her position of power and dominance. And this is Edomite on Edomite violence at its finest, man. All right. Now it says this. I think that's it on this article. Yeah. So that's it on this article. But I wanted to go into that because, again, through the spirit, what we're seeing is the Lord stirring up war and strife in the earth. And when we see these signs, we're supposed to understand that this is the very same time where the Lord is beginning to visit the world which he made. And when he's going to send Yahweh Shai to deliver the elect, Lord willing, we be a part of that number. This is the signs of the beginning of it that followeth when we deal with the kingdom of heaven. Before the kingdom of heaven is established, everything that offends is going to be plucked up. And the Lord is going to use war to do it. All right, he's going to use famine, pestilence. He's going to use fire from the chariots. And he's going to use the ICBM missiles that all of these nations have been stockpiling. And this is the rhetoric that leads up to that time period. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yashar Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.